Good morning, everybody. How's it going out there?
That sounded like, hi, Dr. Nick.
Hi, everybody. I have a good topic of conversation.
Go.
Right, I was thinking when I was over in the kitchen, because I've done a couple of self-tapes during this lockdown. Not heard anything yet. And they're for good jobs, like really exciting projects that could be really fun. So I was thinking, getting the call to say, Carrie, you've got the job. Tell me what's the most memorable, because the thing is with calls, those calls, you always remember where you are.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, because I was in the kitchen thinking about this, I was thinking, that job, yeah, I was there, that job, I was doing that job, I cried, that job, whatever. So I want to know about your calls. Where were you? Like, what was the one that affected you the most? Like, one you were surprised, but I don't know, like, it's really interesting. Because it's the good part about being an actor, because these are the best bits when you get the call saying they want you to play this part, they want you to be in this musical. It's really fun.
Yeah. When I was Ebony was like the biggest, because that was like the job that I'd waited the longest to play. Like I'd spent my whole life wanting to play Ebony. So, and I didn't think it was going to happen because I hadn't heard for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, when it gets to the sort of a few weeks after your audition, you start losing hope a little bit, and you go, oh well, I just have to stop thinking about it, and if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, then fine. So yeah, it'd been a couple of weeks, and I was in my bedroom at home in my pyjamas, and got a call from my agent to say that they were offering the job, but I just couldn't believe it until I had it in writing. So she was like, I'm going to send it through in an email in a minute. So I waited another half hour after my phone call for the email to come through, and that's when I burst into tears. I remember just running downstairs going, Mom! Mom! And running into the living room. I think she thought I'd hurt myself, because she was like up off the sofa immediately as I ran in. She'd heard me screaming. Yeah. And I remember calling my brother and saying that I'd got Eponine. I was like, hey Tom, I was just wondering if you wanted tickets to my opening night in the West End as Eponine and Les Mis. Tom? Tom? He was like, yeah. He got all upset and burst into tears. It was so sweet.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've only ever cried once, and that was Mormon. It wasn't like my first job, but it was like my first West End job. And anyway, so I did 7 rounds, and I waited for three weeks, I think it was in total, because you had to send all the tapes to America.
There's like a much bigger process, isn't there?
Yeah, because Les Mis, they make it.
Yeah, they're all here.
Yeah, Cameron's here, all the people who make the decisions are in London. But when you do an American show, it's just a longer process. And at the time, I was doing a show, I think I was doing Copacabana. You know what I was saying? An apple. That one.
Oh, yeah.
When I was dancing, I'm just saying like una manzana. It was that show. And I was actually staying, because my agent, my old agent, I'm not with him anymore, but he was directing that show. That's why I was one of the dancers. That's important, because I was staying with him in his home in Burnley. Anyway, so I'm waiting 3 weeks, and I get a call, a text from my mate who was in the finals as well, a guy called Nick, and he got the job. Because I said to him, I said, wait, let me know if you hear anything, because then I know that the calls are going out, because the calls always happen around about the same day.
Yeah.
So he texted me at like 1 o'clock saying, I got the call, mate. So the call in today, I got the job. You know, fingers crossed you're here today, and it's good news. So I knew the phone was going to ring that day. And the most annoying thing was that I was staying with my agent, whose office was next door.
Oh my god.
So his phone was like ring, 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 ring. I'd be like, and then he wouldn't come in. And it was like that all day. And around about 5 o'clock, so literally as it was shutting, ring, 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 ring. I was like, by then I was like, I'm not gonna numb that thing out. And he just walked in. It's like, you got the job. They want you to be a Mormon. I was like, what? I just like got up and just hugged him. It was like, because we were together, like in that room, like it was really fun.
That's lovely.
It was a really nice way to sort of find out your first like West End gig, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the first West End gig is always going to be like the one that's going to make you cry.
Yeah.
Because it's such a big deal.
Yeah. And I remember getting on my phone after like speaking to Anthony, who's my agent, and we were just chatting and saying like what I've been offered, like because I was cover price. So I was like, that's amazing, like it's so sick. They're like, you're only third cover, which is like the lowest cover, and I was like, I'm not bothered. Like I was like, oh man, I'm so happy that I can actually like give it a go at some point. And I remember getting on my phone, going, right, come on, mum.
Oh.
Called my mum, didn't answer. And I was so frustrated. I was like, oh my god, like I was just like pacing around, just going, someone answered. Then I called my dad. I don't think my dad answered. And like people just weren't answering, and I was just getting like so frustrated. I was like, oh my god, I just want to tell someone. Yeah. I think my dad was the first person who answered. By the way, I told my mum eventually, she cried her eyes out, she couldn't believe it, but yeah. So that was like the big one. But I can remember like other ones as well. Yeah,
saying that, I feel like the only part that I got that I didn't cry about was Heather's, but that's only because there was like, the whole production was up in the air. So what I got told on the phone was, if the production goes ahead, you've got the part. So that instantly takes some of like the excitement away, because I'm like, well, the production might not even happen. So I was like, okay, I'll wait for the call to say that the production's happening, and therefore I've definitely got the part.
Because that sort of eased you in, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're not got too happy about it. Because you're like, oh, I don't want to like, because it'll hurt.
Yeah.
If they go, oh, it's not happening.
Well, I did 4 self-tapes for Heather's. They sent me through like 13 pages of script. But the memo didn't get to me that I just had to pick one scene. So I just did them all. Yeah. And me and Scott, it was Scott who was reading in for me. Me and Scott sat there for like 2 hours. It took us ages. But yeah, because I'd never been in the room, so I never had that like adrenaline rush. I'd never met any of the creative team because they were all in America, and so it was all done through self-tapes. And yeah, and then I got the call to say, it wasn't really the call, it was like, if the production goes ahead, you've got the part, but it's still all very much up in the air. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll get excited when I'm told it's actually going ahead then. But then I never got like an official call to say it's happening. It was just sort of like, I bumped into Paul Taylor Mills, the producer, at, I think it was Eugenius, and he was like, oh yeah, it's happening. And I was like, oh great. And that was kind of it. So that's the only part that I never got like an actual call where I could get like emotional and excited about it.
Well, my High Fidelity one was a bit like that, I guess. My High Fidelity one was...
Your High Fidelity one was like that even more so.
It was the most chilled... Yeah, because I didn't audition for it. I didn't audition for the part. So Paul messaged me. So Paul Taylor Mills, obviously, he produced... He was one of the producers on Heathers and In the Heights and High Fidelity and loads of things. But anyway, he messaged me just saying that, hey man, like, I'm thinking about doing a musical in like the sort of winter time, so from like, you know, September to December. So it's like, he's like, will you be free? And this was like around about the summertime, and I was like, well, I was doing Cats at the time, so I was like, well, yeah, actually, because I have nothing on that time, it would be perfect to do something. And then he just like didn't hear anything from it, and I was like, well, in my head I was thinking, well, I need to know if this is happening, because if not, I can do pantomime and make some money. Like, I need to, make plans. And he messaged me back weeks later saying, right, I'm thinking, he said, have a listen to High Fidelity. So I was like, okay. So I listened to the soundtrack, and I was like, oh right, really cool. Songs, really good. He was like, cool. Disappeared again. Came back and was like, what do you think of High Fidelity? And I was like, yeah, I loved it. Yeah, really good. He was like, well, what about the Rob stuff? He was like the lead. Like, what about the Rob stuff? Is it in your range? Is it, you know, could you do it? So for me then I was like, oh, he wants me to be Rob. Which is like, Rob is like Veronica, like he's in everything. So I was like, one, like, that's really cool, but two, like, shit, oh, okay. So I went away, listened to the soundtrack again, I was like humming it along, and going, yeah, it's pretty high, but it should be fine. Came back to him, I was like, yeah, I feel fine. He's like, well, if you say you're fine, like, I trust it. Like, and that was it. And I didn't hear anything. And then my agent called, was like, so you've been offered, so this is it. It's like, my agent called like a week later or something, and was like, yeah, so you've had a straight offer from Paul Taylor Mills for Rob in High Fidelity. I was like, great. Yeah, and I sort of knew it was that call was coming.
Yeah.
Because Paul told me unofficially, saying, "I want you to play this part." So I had to like act a bit surprised, but then it came out in the wash that I actually said, "Well, I did actually have an inkling," and my agent was a bit annoyed at Paul. He was a bit like, YOUVE was a bit like, "This is not how it works. It should come through me." But yeah, it worked out fine in the end. But that was just such a weird process because every week. There was more information, and it ended up being that I was playing the lead part in a new musical, and I was like, this is amazing, but really weird way to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, I think my favourite one is actually Wednesday, because that was one of those ones where I kept getting like a little bit more information every time I saw the producer, because I was doing Chitty Bang Bang at the time, and I think I was in Wimbledon Theatre doing Chitty as Trudy Scrumptious. And like Trudy and Wednesday are like worlds apart, and like they're completely different characters. And I got a knock on my dressing room door at Wimbledon Theatre, and it was John Stalker, who was one of the producers for Chitty, or the producer for Chitty from Music and Lyrics. Yeah. He was like, just to let you know, and he was so matter of fact. He was like, just to let you know, we're producing Addams Family next year. Andrew Lipper's asked to see you as Wednesday. I think you've done something with him before, so expect a call. And then just close the door. And I was like, that was a lot of information in one go. Very excited. Okay, because I'd done a concert with Andrew Lipper like 2 years before, in 2014, and Andrew Lipper he had no reason to know who I was. I was like new as Eponine, like never done anything professionally as an adult before that. He just contacted my agent and said, have you got any clients that would be willing to sing in my concert? My first London concert at the Other Palace, which used to be the St James back then. Everyone else in the concert was singing like 2 or 3 songs, but he just gave me pulled, and I was like, great, okay, fine. So I learned it, and obviously the song's like ridiculous, the song's brilliant, it's so good. So I learned it, and I was like, this is awesome, I'm gonna keep this song for auditions. And I did the concert, and afterwards, like at drinks after the concert, Andrew Lipper came to me and was like, if Addams Family ever comes to the UK, I want you as my Wednesday. And I was like, oh, that's lovely, like massaging my ego, that's sweet. But people say stuff like that a lot in the industry, and it's not that they don't mean it, it's just they mean it at the time and then they'll forget about it. Or something else will come up, or someone else will come up who they think is better for the job, and the process just doesn't work that way. So I was like well aware of that, and I was like, oh, that's really, it means a lot that you mean that in this moment. That's nice, I'll take that, thank you. And then 2 years later, John Stalker knocks on my dressing room door and says, Andrew Lipper wants to see you. And I was like, oh my God, he actually remembered me, that's madness. So then I had to travel, we were going to Canterbury next on the Chitty tour, so I had to travel from Canterbury to London for the afternoon, audition on Tottenham Court Road, and had to do, I think it was 3 or 4 scenes, between Lucas and Gomez, and sing Pulled and One Normal Night. But Andrew Lipper wasn't there, so they had to film it. So it was all of the creative team, like John Stalker, the producer, and the casting directors, and Matt White, the director, loads of people. But Andrew Lipper wasn't there, so they had to film it and send it off. And I think it took 2 days. It took 2 days for them to send it to Andrew Lipper and for him to approve, because I remember I was still in Canterbury when I got the call. And I had the most amazing digs in Canterbury. I was at a house that was opposite the theatre, it was amazing. And I just left the house when my phone rang. So I remember standing there looking at everyone stood outside the theatre waiting for me to go in. And I got the call to say that it was going to be Wednesday. And I ran over and cried at everyone.
Hey.
But the fun thing was that Scott was also auditioning. So I knew that there was a chance that Scott might also be in the show. That, in fact, that might have been an even more emotional call, because I just come out of Chitty in October, and about a week later Scott gave me a call and was like, have you had enough of me yet? Because I'm coming to the Addams Family. That was probably more of an emotional call, because I don't know, having a friend come with you to go into a show was so good. Right,
so that is that. That is only scratching the surface. There's a lot more calls happened. There's a lot more calls to be had. Okay, thanks for popping by, everyone. Hope you have a good day. Be safe. Eat your greens. Bye, everyone.
Bye.